Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to part 4 of this is called the $1,000,000 mistake, multi-million dollar mistake. Nate BRRRR here. Thank you for tuning in. Want to talk to you today about protecting your equity and what that looks like. Full disclaimer, I am not an attorney. I am not a CPA. I don't know what state you're in. You should talk to your attorney. I'm here to give you ideas. And you go figure out how to execute them. Every state's different. Every situation's different. For me, protecting equity. So you go out here, you do the BRRRR method. You create massive equity in the deal if you're doing it right and you're hanging on to this deal. And a couple things happen. You want to be able to go back to the bank and you want to be able to pull money out and you want to make sure that you're protected. And even though you may have really good insurance, you may even have an umbrella policy, ultimately you want to keep from getting sued by people that are just out to try to take your money. So one of the ways to do that is through an LLC, limited liability corporation, and then making sure that there is not too many assets. Usually for every $1 million worth of property, or if it's a bigger deal, we'll create its own LLC. But if you had one, let's say you're funding a deal with all cash, $120,000. Naturally, if you're borrowing the money from your private lender, they're giving you 120 grand, you go create $200,000 in value, you got $80,000 of equity, hard-earned equity that you could lose. And even worse than that, 5 years from now, if you bought it in a really good area, that property could be worth $300,000. So you could lose $180,000 in equity. The way that we protect ourselves in that situation is we have our own mortgage company that only does our deals. And then what we will do is we will lend the money to ourselves, or we'll put a lien on the property to protect our interest. We do have the attorney set all this up, so it is done totally legal. So the mortgage is in place basically to help protect your equity, and you control that position. So let's say that somebody comes and sues you today, and then you say, "Oh crap, I'm gonna go put this mortgage in place." You're not allowed to do that because you're doing it to defraud somebody. But if you do it in 2 years from now, a year from now, or after that was done, it's my understanding that that is your legal position on that property and nobody else can jump in front of you except the tax man. You don't pay the tax man, he's gonna jump in front of everybody. He's gonna push the banks out of the way. So you got to be responsible, make sure you pay your taxes, or better yet, make sure you do cost segregation and make sure you do accelerated depreciation, and then you can push the taxes down the road. And push the tax down the road, and then you figure out how to do a 1031 or a tenants in common or whatever. And then you got to figure out when you make all this money what you're ultimately going to do and how that's going to transfer to your trust, which we'll have videos on that, but we're not going to go into that today. So protecting your equity. If you're going to buy a place all cash, even if you had an investor like me in the very beginning when I first started off with this guy, he would just give me the cashier check or just wire me the money to my bank. Or he would just call over there to the bank and transfer the money to my account. It was a trust relationship. But I got caught in the last market cycle downturn. And luckily for me, I had recorded these mortgages on the title. And so when the bank started coming after and trying to take other assets from me, they couldn't take these because they were protected because I owed him. And so what we ultimately had to do was go and foreclose on the property with his mortgage, and I had to pay for all this stuff. But then we cleaned the title because it had second and third and juniors liens behind it after I came out of bankruptcy. And there wasn't enough money to be distributed to anybody but him at the tax sale. So he got the property back, turned around, sold it back to me for the same price, and rewrote a new mortgage. So I was able to keep a lot of those properties and still have them probably, I don't know if I got them today. A lot of them I sold off, but I'm sure I still have some of them today. So that's a hack that you can use. And again, consult your attorney. Make sure, and guys, it's not that hard. You say, oh, how do I create a mortgage? Well, same way the bank does. All the bank does is you call up the title company when you're closed and say, hey, title company, I need a mortgage on this property. And, if you don't have a mortgage, just say, I want you to create the mortgage, send it over to me. I want it to be, 4% interest only for 10 years or for 20 years or for 30 years. And here's the terms. And if you default, there's a 5% default rate. And then here's a balloon payment or whatever. You make up your own terms. It's a mortgage that you're creating. You just have the title company do it at closing and make sure they record it on the title so that you're protected in there. And another thing that we did to protect our equity was everybody always thinks about the property, somebody slip and fall and being able to come sue you. But what if you cause harm to somebody? You're in a wreck, you injure somebody badly. God forbid, they're in a wheelchair for the rest of their life. Now they can come after you and take all the shares in your LLCs. So how do you protect yourself from that? What we do in the state of Ohio, I think it was May of 2013, Governor Kasich came in and he started to make our state more friendly, business friendly for people to come to. Big corporations, all the private equity groups, syndicators, come to the state of Ohio and do deals because we want to work with you. We want to help create jobs. So they were successful in doing that. And what they instituted was the only course of action to come after an LLC was, if you wanted to get a judgment against it, was called a charging order. A charging order means that they are entitled to any distributions that you may get, but they don't have any voting rights. So what you want to do is have a dual member LLC, 2 members, you and your wife, let's say 50-50. Then they could come in and they could take your shares from you. Then it would be responsible for half the taxes. They would get half the distributions. Your wife would then say, hey, not giving out any voting rights and I'm going to change. I'm going to just give myself payroll. They get none of it and they're responsible for half the taxes. Ultimately, it just makes it harder to take people's stuff. And I'm sure there's creative attorneys out here that can still get stuff done, but it's a lot harder. And it ultimately protects you. So a dual member LLC and a state that allows only charging orders, from what I've been told, are the safest way. But again, ask your attorney about this stuff because, I could be wrong, different states. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm just a real estate investor like you and just want to share with you what I've been told and what I know. So that's what I have for you guys today on to protect your equity. Make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to our channel, Nate Barger on YouTube, and hit the bell, and you'll be notified on any new videos that come out.